So I'm going to go reverse psychology and just come out with the most boring, the most boring uniform combination. And be like, man, these guys are for real. They don't give a shit about this stuff.
Welcome to My Gotta Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I talk a little recruiting, everything SEC Media Days related, and we answer questions from you, our listeners. As always, remember to check out store.mygottapodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at My Gotta Podcast. Finally, if you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, 5 stars obviously, and review the show. If you leave us a review, you just might hear it on an upcoming episode. Now, let's join the conversation in progress.
So we're back.
We are back again.
Another preseason.
Another preseason. Much shorter hiatus this time than last time. We took a week off, and enjoyed SEC Media Days. I know you texted me and we were talking about recording around Media Days, but decided we usually record on Mondays and wanted to make sure we had all the Kirby and company interviews done before we talked. So I think that worked out.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard, but Kirby Smart basically was bad mouthing NIL, right?
True. Yes. Right. Exactly. We'll have to get to that.
We'll get to that.
I did have to say I saw on Twitter today a comment from Brett Belding talking about Makers 46 and how that's a good pour. So that's what I've got this evening while recording. It's a tried and true My Gotta Podcast favorite. So agreed, Brett. Excellent choice. And
yeah, that's a fantastic one. I'm having some of West Cobb's finest H2O. I'm not feeling 100%. So I'm sticking to the water tonight.
Well, here's the thing though. Like, we were hopeful that you'd be able to make it tonight. We
were hopeful.
And you were. So that's good. I did just want to say, I don't know, like maybe just catch up a little bit. Like, I think, last episode we had John Tweet Sports on and we kind of jumped straight into like Dog Central and stuff like that. But, I don't know, like, how was your summer?
Summer's been pretty straightforward for us, like camps here and there. No big trips or anything like that. So our big vacation is going to be a fall break for us here coming up.
Okay, that's right.
The last week of September. So a lot of work. I had a big client that we onboarded, so I've been kind of commuting between Jacksonville and here for the last couple of months. So it's been a lot of time working for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, got to do it. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
We're all
Unfortunately,
there.
we have to do it until Dog Central starts just raking in the money.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we've been pretty low key. Although, it's funny because like Georgia to North Carolina, like our summers are so different. Like our summer starts so much later than you, but then we do go back to school later, obviously. But so we're not nearly as far into summer as you are. But I have 2 teenagers now, so I think that's the big thing. And the oldest teenager has a car, so we bought a car this summer. That was interesting. So we're having to deal with like we have 3 cars now, and it's like reshuffling. I spent weekend before last, and Kim and I both like cleaning out the garage because I'd been parking my car in the driveway, so it needed to go back into the garage. So that's been fun. So yeah, with that, we did our Fripp trip with family. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good summer. Pretty low key for us too.
That's awesome. Having Fripp is nice. Still waiting for that invite out to Fripp.
Tough but fair. We have talked about it in more nebulous general terms. We need to iron out an actual My Gotta Podcast retreat
Yeah. Seriously, leadership retreat.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like we could go like live from the course or live from the beach. There's lots of possibilities.
Yeah, we need to have a guest speaker. Like we could have a keynote speaker, Frip Dog, coming in and giving us a little pep talk.
That's true. That's true. Last summer was when I recorded the at the time Dog Sports Live episode with Graham and Josh, and like they had Dan Wetzel on, and it was like the Google Meet got messed up or something. So that's my only foray into podcasting. I didn't have all my stuff with me. It was kind of I was a little behind, but anyways, always gets interesting. Well, cool.
It sounds like you had a pretty good summer, though.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
School starts for us next week, so
wow.
See,
that's
back,
crazy. Baby. Oh my gosh.
This is where you would cue up like the Christmas music, like it's the most wonderful time.
Right. No, yeah,
that'll be a preview of what my kids are going to hear on come Monday morning.
This month, so a week. So we're recording Monday night. So a week from today, school starts.
Yeah.
Wow.
August 1st.
Wow. Yeah, we're way behind.
My oldest got her schedule and everything, so she's starting high school.
Yeah. Okay. So your oldest is starting. Yeah. So I'm going to have a junior in high school and an 8th grader this year. So big things happening. Wait, is that the most famous podcaster in the Pala household that I see on the screen?
He is. He's taking a peek over my shoulder because it's bedtime. Night, buddy.
Night, Carter. Sorry, Carter.
Yeah, it's about to be even more sorry because that kid's going to have a wake-up call because he can't sleep until 8 o'clock anymore.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, the end of summer.
Exactly. And bedtimes are going to be like much more swift.
Right. It happens. Ugh. All right. Well, let's see. I know. I guess before we get to SEC Media Days, we don't usually talk about the Cruitin so much in here. Like we're not the Cruitin experts. That's why we've got Jason and Dustin and Graham over at Dog Central doing that stuff, and John.
Man, those guys are phenomenal, and Trey and Lamar, those guys are just so plugged in, man. If you haven't checked them out, go check them out over at Dog Central, man, because I'm just blown away by the amount of intel that those guys are able to pull. It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And we've reached, or I don't know, now it's started to calm down, but maybe like a week or two ago we had reached like the point in summer where like the sky is falling, or everyone feels like the sky is falling, and like because we had kind of back to back, seemed I guess back to back with Arch Manning and Justice Haynes, not choosing Georgia, and when I think like I had joked months back, right, like the recruits. I don't claim to be plugged in or anything, but like the guys like that I wanted, right, purely for like nostalgia reasons, and just like not even with Justice Haynes is definitely nostalgia, but I always joke about my cousin Sammy, which I don't know that I would say he's a Clemson lean, I guess, but those are my priority recruits. So bummed to miss out on Justice. Like Veron is a guy that was there when we were in school. We were in school for the hobnail boot. And so wanted him just for that reason alone, obviously. And obviously he's like very talented and is like tearing it up. So once he kind of emerged, he was a guy that I had kind of keyed in on, like, oh man, that'd be so cool to have him. But I mean, it is what it is. I guess the two things I'll say on it is like, some people want to kind of forge their own path. I'm sure that would have to be hard for him to come to Georgia with the last name that he has. And, his dad, I don't even know so much living up to it, but just, he has made one of the most iconic plays, I guess, or one of the most memorable plays, so that would be tough. So I can understand that. And then, but the flip side of that is I'll say is nothing has been signed yet, and recruiting never ends until that letter of intent is signed. So, but we'll see.
Well, even after with the latest, they're talking about allowing and getting rid of the 1 year, limit on transfers, right? So these kids are potentially going to be free agents every single year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
Just,
don't burn those bridges, right?
yeah, exactly. Well, that's true. So like, you want to make sure that you, yeah, because think about it, like you've got the offensive coordinator that may be hating on you, and you transfer away, and then a year later they're coaching, they're the head coach at that school. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I know Kirby does a good job of that. But I would say even like as fans, like that's something like as myself, like I'm not like, like the whole, like, don't tweet at recruits kind of like
yeah,
mantra that I have. Like, somebody commits elsewhere, I'm probably not going to say anything at all. If anything, maybe like a, good for you, best wishes or whatever. So I feel like is definitely kind of the model to follow there. Cause especially in this day and age, like, yeah, that was a great point. It's not just signing day, right? There's always the portal later. So who knows?
yeah. I don't subscribe to that anymore for sure. It's
Yeah.
probably been since I was in my 20s when I stopped doing some stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Where I at least like felt somewhat connected, to the, like, you could run into some of these kids at the bar kind of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well,
Yeah, it's definitely a bummer to miss out on justice because
yeah.
you definitely don't want to hear touchdown Haynes against University of Georgia in the SEC championship.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that'll be weird if and when we do play against him. I don't even know like what the rotation is or like would be at that point because we don't even know what the schedule is going to be. So who knows?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say it's one of those things where it's like you want your legacies to come, but at the same time, you know, we always say in Kirby we trust, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And in this day and age, with the NIL the way that it is, like if you don't want to come to school at the University of Georgia, like I don't want you to come to school at the University of Georgia. You know what I mean? Like if you don't want to be here, don't be here.
Yep. Yep. For sure. Totally. But I would say, I guess the only other thing to kind of like before we pivot to SEC Media Days is I think things have definitely picked back up. We've had several recruits since. I know like Jonel Aguero we got over the weekend. So I don't know, like in Kirby we trust. You said it, so nothing else to say there really.
Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember if we talked about it the last time or not, or if it was just something we messaged back and forth on the threads about. But I wonder if some of that slowdown just has to do with the fact that Kirby mentioned, I can't remember where it was that I saw, but I saw that he had mentioned that they had taken, was it Thursdays in June off or something like that?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly the specifics of what it was either, but yeah, like the mental
They
health.
They basically went to taking like a day off, whereas in the past they hadn't taken that day off. And so they took the day off so that people could be with their families and have lives and stuff like that. And so I wonder if some of that slowdown and some of that momentum was maybe partially because of that. I like to think that it probably isn't. If nothing else, it's just that they're loading up the preseason hype train, SEC Media Days. I'm sure that a lot of some of this information leaking and information getting out about recruits and stuff is going to be strategic to a certain degree, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, like that what you just brought up, I think is a good segue into SEC Media Days because that the comment when Kirby was talking about that and making that transition in like June this year as opposed to years past, that's when he made and that's when he made the comment of that, like I don't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago that it was so crazy and it was so bad that he basically thought about retiring. And he's like, I wanted to quit or something like that. And I know some people kind of ran with that, like he like totally meant it, which my stance was like I need to hear him say it. Like I need to know what like his vocal tone was to see what he really meant. I did think it was interesting though that like I watched his whole press conference. I don't think anyone like even asked him about that at SEC Media Days because that comment was made at like the Texas high school coaches convention or whatever. That didn't even come up, which I think is appropriate. Like it didn't seem like it was I actually thought about retiring kind of comment. Anyways,
like not a serious person.
right. Exactly.
if you were reporting that, you were not a serious person.
Yes, right, for sure, for sure. So let's see. There were two things in SEC Media Days that came out as kind of like what we would say like news and notes. So the first one was around Tate Ratledge. So Kirby did say that he's cleared to practice, but that's not an injury. That's just easy to return from. So we'll see. That's definitely something to watch, kind of like in the preseason leading up to Oregon. Would love to have him back. You know, we had him for like a series against Clemson last year.
I know, right?
And the other one was Tyke Smith.
Don't tell Alabama that, Jim. We were at full strength.
That's a good point. Good point. And then the other one was Tyke Smith. And so Kirby said, I don't know if he'll be completely cleared when we get back to fall camp, but he should be cleared shortly thereafter. Hopefully we can find a role for him to help us. So threw in the dreaded hopefully. Although he said hopefully and not hopeful. So I don't know. Hopeful to get him back that's the full on kiss of death. So maybe this one isn't quite as bad. That one was kind of a bummer.
I'm going to make a GIF of Kirby Smart given the Hadouken with the hopeful.
Amazing. Okay, and now we have to have a My God, a podcast debate of is it GIF or GIF? Because I don't know that I've heard you say
GIF. Yeah, I alternate.
Okay,
I work in a creative environment where I get made fun of if I call it a GIF.
Really?
But, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you got creative minds around that are like aficionados of creative things. So. I was just gonna say I try to stay up on the lingo so I don't get made fun of with the guys at work.
Yeah, I'm taking us totally off the rails, but because I can't remember like the guy that invented the GIF slash GIF.
It's officially supposed to be GIF.
He says GIF, right? The guy that came up with the concept, right? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. I mean, these are things that we have to know. Like it's kind of what we're known for. Kind of what we're known for. Or one of the things.
Here's some preseason talk.
So the big thing from Kirby, I would say, was not even from his press conference, but something that came out from a sit down that he had with the SEC network folks. So we're actually going to splice in and play this clip. So the first person you will hear, hopefully, is Tim Tebow, unless something gets messed up. But let's take a listen at this.
All right, Coach, I got a bone to pick with you because I've heard that you no longer really want the Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville.
You mean the Georgia-Florida game?
No. Hey, come on.
I tried to throw that plug in there.
I did, but it's literally one of the best environments. How come you want to switch it up?
Why is it one of the best environments? How many times did you play in Athens now?
None.
How many times did we get to play in Gainesville?
None.
I think that's special.
It is.
I think that's special.
But you get a lot of home and road games, but you only get one where it's split 50-50
no, you
in the
don't.
middle.
We're going to play Oregon this year in Mercedes.
I know, and there'll be pockets full of it, but this one's literally split right down the middle. Orange and blue, red and black.
It absolutely is. I tell you what, y'all tell Florida you call the AD and you ask him to come to Atlanta and come play us. We'll play in Atlanta anytime they want to play.
Tell them, Kirby.
There's a little bit of it. So so just to talk about it, I'm sure honestly, I can't remember if we talked about this last time. I know we've texted about it a ton, and like you and I and Hunter and John tweets, we're definitely talking about it a lot right after this came up. Has your stance changed at all? Like listening to that right there, like because my stance has generally been like I want to keep it in Jacksonville, just for like nostalgia and traditional purposes, and I enjoyed going there as a student. That kind of stuff. But he does make some good points.
So I'm not a huge fan of Jacksonville beaches. I mean, it's great and all. If I want the type of experience and environment like that, I'd go to Hilton Head or Fripp or whatever, somewhere up more north. But where the actual atmosphere and people are better, in my opinion. But I don't know. My position on it is that if you're using recruiting as the example, obviously we've shown that he doesn't need he doesn't need it. Come on, Kirby, we got top 3 classes every year or whatever. So like clearly it's not needed. Now, would it give him another asset? Absolutely, dude. Like they're 70 miles away from the school. Like they can bus people over and make it a thing. If they take it home and home, it's going to be much more easy for them to leverage that every other year. My thing is that if everybody is all butthurt over the fact that, you know, you're trying to get nostalgia and you want to make it more even, you want to make it more recruiting, make it more fair and balanced, like give them something special or whatever, like some sort of combination of going home and home and neutral site or different neutral site, which is what I was texting you guys about. Like if this was about parity and like trying to give an experience or whatever and try to maintain some of that recruiting elements, like just go home and home, and in between the home and homes go, you know, neutral site, whether it be Jacksonville or Atlanta, and just alternate all of it, just so that every 4 years you get the Georgia-Florida game at the Benz, you get the Georgia-Florida game at the Swamp, you get the Georgia-Florida game at home, you get the Georgia-Florida game at, you know, Jacksonville. So, my opinion, that would be like a best case scenario. But if, you know, I personally think that we should have at least some element of home and home. It is absolutely mind-boggling to me that there's kids that have never played against Florida in the Swamp, and that to me just doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right with me as far as like what we think about with college football, because the nostalgia with that game, in my opinion, I mean, think about how much that stadium has changed over the years. Like the experience overall has changed over the years. Like I don't know, man. Like I get it. Like if you want to go to the beach, go to the beach. But the reason it's awesome is because it's Georgia, Florida.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like I'm starting to kind of get off my high horse a little bit of like it has to stay in Jacksonville. And yeah, the recruiting pitch that does nothing for me, because like like Kirby clearly can recruit fine. And if that's true, then like why are we scheduling Oregon, you know, as a neutral game, and why are we scheduling Clemson and Charlotte?
Well,
like,
that's the same reason it's going to stay in Jacksonville, right? It's money.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. I'll say the only thing I listened to this morning, of all people, Mike Griffith was on 960 with Logan Booker and Dave on the morning show. And he made a comment that, like, surprisingly, I was like, that's actually a really good point. And it was around the Iron Bowl. So Alabama, Auburn, the Iron Bowl used to be played in Birmingham at Legion Field, right? At Legion Field. And that was quote unquote neutral, which I think was more of a Bama slant, but you could say the same thing about like Jacksonville, right? Like it's in the state of Florida. And just like what it meant for the people at Auburn to get that home game back. And, you know, like, I guess I'm definitely obviously outside looking in, but like, I think having the Iron Bowl home and home just makes sense. And if Georgia, Florida were to change and be home and home, I think eventually we would get to that point too. But I do think that your idea is kind of like the ultimate compromise, right? Like rotate through all four. If you did that, if you did Mercedes-Benz, you did Jacksonville, Athens, and Gainesville, then a 4-year player would get to play in all four venues, which I think
and you have something to look forward to. Like each year, it's like, oh yeah, we get to go to Jacksonville this year, or you better stick around next year. We're going to the Swamp, you know, that kind of thing. Like no one's ever played at the Swamp before. Like, I don't know, man. I just think I recognize that my wish list there is like just wishful thinking, but like, because the reality is that once you layer in another city and another negotiation point, like, it's going to overcomplicate it. I feel like just doing it that way, that's just my pie in the sky. Like if all things being equal kind of thing. But the reality is the easiest compromise is to just rotate the Jacksonville home and home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that gets to, so we actually did have, I'm going to skip to one listener question. So 51-7 GATA said, considering the Florida athletic director's comment, do you think Florida would actually keep their home game in Jacksonville while making trips to Athens to play Georgia? The last two Florida ADs have said they would keep their designated home game in Jacksonville. I find this difficult to believe, and I agree. There's no way that I don't see how that would happen. So basically, the premise is it goes to home and home, but then Florida says we're going to play our home game in Jacksonville. I don't see them doing that.
What's the stadium size difference there?
I don't know, but my guess is typically pro stadiums are smaller than college stadiums.
But they bring in the stands for that.
They do add stands, but it's still not like, even with the added stands, it's nothing like Sanford, for example.
Well, yeah, I just wasn't sure how big the swamp was.
Again, I guess the answer there is it would still probably need to be money. Like if Florida, I mean, that would be weird, I guess, right? Because then you'd have the cocktail party in Jacksonville. But if it's Florida's home game, it wouldn't be 50-50, right? I mean, then it's not neutral anymore, technically.
So but I don't. 88,000 people is what the swamp holds.
Okay. There's no way Jacksonville's that many.
I don't think so either.
I would say it's with the extra stands, it's in the 70s.
Yeah, I would say it's probably, yeah. It says 80,000.
Really? Okay.
Since the stadium was rebuilt in 1995, capacity has been more than 80,000.
Okay. Interesting. So it's actually not
that much
that big of a difference.
Yeah. Plus you jack up the prices for that, and then you gotta. So here's my thing. So I think that the reason that if I was a Florida person, number one, that just speaks to.
1 second. Give me 1 second. I need to let Munson in the room because he's whimpering. I think Munson heard us and he's been trying to put glasses on it. And
he's been trying to put glasses on it. He wants to participate.
He wants to be in the podcast. I need him. Okay, he laid down. Okay. Where were we?
We were talking about what I think about the game. So the stadium size, you could jack up the ticket prices or whatever, but like, if I am, it just speaks to the value of that game to being where it is. Like if they're being serious about that they're going to keep the home game in Jacksonville, then clearly it's a benefit to them to have it there.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's necessarily a benefit for us. So in my opinion, I think that what they're trying to do is have a game closer to the Georgia border. So they're able to pull those South Georgia recruits down to that game, because if they make that their home game, then I don't know how that works with recruiting or whatever, like making it official visits and all that kind of stuff. But like, yeah, it's only 70 miles away. So I don't know, man. I think that it might be easier for them to put people up in hotels in Jacksonville or something. I don't know. It just seems like it's a much bigger value proposition to have. If you think about it from a military standpoint, like you've got the border right there, and the game is literally right over the little further over the border, like, and Gainesville is further south. So strategically, it's a much better outpost.
Only on Like Out of Podcast can you get military strategy compared analogy to the Florida to the cocktail party.
The ports are bigger in Jacksonville, Jim. All right,
this is true. This is true.
They can bring bigger gators in.
I once went on a cruise out of the port of Jacksonville.
I do think that there's an element of that, though. Like think about the big time donors that have yachts that pull into the St. Johns River for that game.
Well, and that's where I think it's hard to get the game out of Jacksonville from a Georgia perspective too. Is there are some big money Georgia donors that want to keep the game there. So all right, we can move on. But yeah, definitely interesting.
Burn the boats, Jim.
Amazing. Okay. Okay. God, like that was like a glorious segue. Okay. Coach Trill gave us an over-under last week on reusable Kirby quotes at SEC Media Days, and he set the over-under at 2.5. I think we all took the under. I think it hit the under. I think like the most memorable quote that Kirby gave was an answer to a question. It was when he said, like, we will not be hunted at the University of Georgia, right? So to me, that was the most memorable. I'm not sure. I'm having a hard time. I mean, correcting Tim Tebow, calling it the Georgia-Florida game is memorable, but I don't think we hit the over. Memorable. That was. So maybe we were at 2 as opposed to 2.5. I don't think we hit 3. I don't have anything else.
Nothing really sticks out to me.
So we'll say we hit the under. Okay. Other things coming out late SEC Media Days. So we had the all SEC teams come out from the voting. So we had 2 offensive players in the first team in Brock Bowers and Warren McClendon. We had 3 defensive players. So this is kind of funny, right? Like everyone talks about like, 8 starters went to the NFL, only 3 quote unquote returning starters in the defense. Well, all 3 of them are first team all SEC defense. That's pretty cool. So Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo. And then Kyrus Jackson was on the first team at kick return. Although actually, now that I just said that, Jalen Carter technically wasn't a starter, right? I guess probably Robert Beal was the other returning starter. So I may have got that wrong. Apologies. It was pretty close though.
Hold on, it's Bobby. It's Bobby Beal.
Yes, Bobby Beal. That was on the list. Like, is Scott Howard gonna record an alternate pronunciation this year? Like, these are the things we need to know. Are we only gonna have
Robert Beal,
or can we have that and Bobby Beal? These are the questions. By the way, in case you were wondering, the new pronunciations are not out yet. I did check.
Yeah, that Bobby Beal quote with Stetson and Nolan Smith was pretty awesome. That was pretty memorable.
That was memorable. Yeah. So Nolan Smith played reporter and asked Stetson Bennett who his favorite outside linebacker is, and then Stetson said Bobby Beal, which we did not. Where has this been all these years so that we had Bobby Beal?
I think it was Graham that pointed that out.
It was. Yeah.
He pointed that out. And he basically said what I was thinking out loud, which was, we've been missing out on calling him Bobby Beal.
Yeah, seriously.
And the other thing that I don't, maybe I didn't fully appreciate, didn't Nolan Smith say he was from the morning evening news?
That's amazing. I didn't even catch that. That's incredible. I've seen the clip, but I did not catch that.
We need to confirm. We need to put some glasses on that one. That replay.
Definitely.
I think he said this because
the morning evening news.
The morning evening news. I think he was making fun of everybody in the room. They just didn't realize it.
Oh, that's amazing.
The other thing that we haven't talked about that's like not Georgia related, and I guess maybe is there a segment for us to talk about the non-Georgia related stuff?
We can do that. Let me just round out the teams. So we had Kyrus. Don't sleep on Kyrus as first team kick returner. On the second team, we had Cedric Van Pran and Christopher Smith, and then third team Kenny McIntosh. I was gonna do the projected media finish. Won't go through the whole thing, but Georgia predicted first in the East, obviously. Bama first in the West. Bama picked to be the champion by a wide margin, actually. Like, they got 158 votes to win the SEC, and Georgia only got 18. But then I don't know if this is what you were alluding to, but that the fact that Vanderbilt got a first place vote to win the East and to win the SEC, which is pretty incredible. So we don't know who that person was. I did see something along the lines of like everyone that went got a vote, everyone that got a credential. So I don't know. Logan. Okay, we gotta ask Logan if he voted.
Were you trolling everybody?
We can ask that question. Was that your non-Georgia thing, or was it something else?
No. Although there's a couple of non-Georgia things that I thought were funny. So the much ballyhooed showdown with Saban and Jimbo kind of was just like a non-starter, basically, with how it all rolled up. Yeah.
That was strategic interview time placement. I think like they put them pretty far apart, and Jimbo was like the very last guy to go. So
he was basically the SEC Media Days kids table.
Yes. Yeah. So that was strategery. So go on.
The other thing was, can we all just take a minute and pause and just say how blessed it is to have Mike Leach as a head coach in the SEC? I almost always forget about him, and then all of a sudden someone comes out with something absolutely hilarious that he does. Like his opening remarks, that was just chef's kiss.
It was the opposite of who was it that it had that said like nothing? Well, I mean, I know Nolan Smith did it was Leach was the one that just like it was like 2 seconds, right?
Yeah,
it was really fast. Okay, yeah, I had it back. Yeah, the Vanderbilt coach had like a filibuster or something.
You mean Brad Guzan?
Oh, God, I'm so glad you said that. That's what I was about to say. So I successfully, listeners, I I successfully tricked John. I sent you a text and I said, why is Brad Guzan, at SEC Media Days talking on the SEC Network? And it was like a video, but it was Clark Lee. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, if it's Lee or Leah, but it was the Vanderbilt coach. But the best was the way you replied to me. You said, I don't know, Guzan went to South Carolina. And I was like, yeah, that was the Vanderbilt coach. So I guess my joke worked.
Read the article. I did not read the article. I saw the screenshot, No,
that's what I said. It was a video. I sent you like a screen recording of I don't know, like 15 seconds or something.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it. I just saw the image on it. I was like, it looks exactly like him.
He looks like Brad Guzan. So new thing that I did not put 2 and 2 together on him last year to know that he looked like Brad Guzan. That's awesome.
Oh man, the bald guys. we gotta stick together. We all look the same. We don't all look the same, Jim. Jeez.
Sorry.
Let's see. Anything else? The other thing I thought was awesome was Sam Pittman. That moment with Nolan Smith and Sam Pittman in the hallway.
Yeah,
like those are the kinds of things that you don't see on the news like all that well. Like when those two link up and they hug each other and all that. And I think Kirby and Sam also had a moment too, if I remember.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well,
I'm just looking that up.
Well, there was a moment when also in that SEC Network, in like the panel interview, they said something to Kirby about playing pickleball and that he said he's good at pickleball. And they asked him what SEC coach he would want to play in pickleball. And he said Pittman because he knew he could beat him.
Ouch.
So that was good. That was funny. But yeah, it was funny.
And Auburn picked last place in the West. That was the other thing that I thought was funny.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I don't know, man. That is a volatile situation, to say the least. A lot of people just talk about that, like, Harsin is not like he didn't realize what he was getting into, like, is he built for the SEC? And it doesn't so much seem like it. And then there was like the weird Auburn official tweet that was like our coach with a picture of him and stuff, like this is our coach or whatever. I don't know. It's like, okay, well he may be, but like there were people tried to like stage a coup and get him, fired. I don't know.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I don't know. So I live in West Cobb, and we go to church at a church that was very heavily Auburn. Like, there's a lot of folks at church that go to Auburn. I don't know that I'm going to be able to have constructive conversations with them after the Auburn game. We'll see. There's some guys that I know that are Auburn fans that used to play, like, they played at Troy and stuff like that, and they're very passionate, that bunch. And the last year or so has been brutal for them, and I can't imagine it getting much better. That's just going to be it's just one of those ones that I try not to mess with the diehards on the Auburn side because they just can't handle it. Kind of like the Bama guys, but
yeah, seriously. On the Georgia side, I did have a couple of things. So I went back today and I watched like the official media availability for the players. So a couple of things I got it from that. So first with Stetson, he officially, we know he has an iPhone and it sounds like he intends to keep it. So make of that what you will. But he actually talked about that, like the T9 texting was getting way too hard to deal with. So that factored into his decision. The other thing was that he talked about, I had not thought about this. He talked about that or someone asked him this question, and he was talking about how cool it is that he's going to get to be on the same football team as his brother this year. So his younger brother is a freshman on the team this year. And, and what I'm going to is the part that I didn't think about with this was, he mentioned that that's COVID related, right? Because Stetson without COVID wouldn't be in college anymore. Like this is his, I mean, he's pretty old. He's older than Jake Fromm, by the way, Stetson Bennett. Like he should not be in college anymore.
Thank you, COVID.
yeah, so this is the whole COVID year thing for him. So he talked about that was like the best thing to come out of COVID. He's like, he said he's 5 years older than his brother. They've never been able to be on the same team before. So this gives them the chance to be on the same football team for the first time. And he was like, who knows, maybe the stars will align and we'll get to throw a pass to each other. That would be pretty cool. He's like, but even if not, it's cool to just to be on the same team. So that's pretty cool.
That's really cool. Mama Bennett is probably really happy about that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Talking about legacies and shadows, like, imagine being the kid's brother. Like, you're coming in like, my brother just won the national championship.
Right. Yeah. Your brother is the
starting quarterback. Yeah. Yeah. That'll be interesting.
I mean, like,
what position does he play? Wide receiver or
yeah, he's a receiver. So by the way, Luke Bennett, by the way, so I keep calling him Stetson's brother. So yes. So sorry. That's what he has. Sorry. Yeah. Apologies. So Luke Bennett, and he plays receiver. Yeah. But I think he's like similar in stature to Stetson. So be interesting. They're both listed at 5'11". Yeah, you never know. Maybe one of these games on the schedule against a lesser opponent, Luke Bennett could get in, and that'd be pretty cool.
Over under number of backyard touchdowns between brother to brother touchdowns.
Oh yeah. Now I feel like we just need an over under completions from Bennett to Bennett on the season. Over under set at 0.5. We need to confirm with Coach Trill. We'll let Coach Trill actually set that. But that Coach Trill, that is what I recommend. Moving on.
If we can hit for the trifecta of Bennett, McConkey, Bennett, like Stetson hands off to McConkey, and McConkey throws it to Bennett.
Dude, the law firm has grown. Bennett, and McConkey.
That's great.
Incredible. Let's see. Okay, so I would say another thing we talked about when John Tweets was on, we had a question around like who would kind of be the darling at media days, and we said Nolan Smith, and I would say he was. I don't know. I mean, obviously, like we had the Bobby Beal thing. You mentioned the Nolan Smith hugging Sam Pittman, and just like watching him interact with the media, he is that like boisterous vocal guy. He was awesome. The two things that I jotted down were not from his official press conference. One was I found a video. He was like talking to a media member, and Nolan was showing this reporter his Instagram video of him snow skiing at Big Sky Resort in Big Sky, Montana, which, fun fact, is where the Wood family used to vacation in December years ago. So, I could relate to that. I thought that was pretty cool. And the other one was, I don't know if you saw, he had an interview with Feinbaum, and Nolan Smith started talking about fishing and that he's a country boy. And this is a quote from Nolan Smith: "All you need is a hot dog to catch a catfish." So that was pretty amazing. Which, like, I agree. Yeah. I mean, like, pretty true.
The guys that I've seen catch catfish are using chicken livers, but I guess hot dogs would work too.
There you go. And then, like, talk about like polar opposites. So, like, you had of the three guys that were brought. So you had Stetson, who starting quarterback, and then all of the narrative surrounding him. You had that. And then you had Nolan Smith, this like huge personality. And then they had Cedric Van Pran. And I don't know about you, but like I hadn't seen or like actually heard him speak a lot. I was very impressed listening to him. He was very like even keel, very straight to the point, very matter of fact. I had a good time listening to him. So definitely, like, if you get a chance, go look. You could just like YouTube, search on YouTube, Cedric Van Pran, SEC Media Days, and it'll pop up. You can see his whole interview. But the thing that jumped out to me that he said, he got a question around like, so much talent left, and as a team, what are you doing to replace those guys that left? And his answer was that he feels like the key is not to focus on replacing guys, but to uphold the standard that they set. So that was pretty cool. I thought that was a great answer from Van Pran. And like I said, overall, I was just like super impressed with him. It was fun to listen to him talk. I thought he was a great representative of Georgia.
Yeah, no, I was impressed as well. He definitely ripped that G well. That goes without saying.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing more of some of these kids that we know about, but we haven't really heard a whole lot from because of other leaders on the team, having taken their place. It'll be nice to see some of the guys talk a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, I think that's probably it for media days. And then, the day after, Kirby got the huge contract extension. So he's
and he also got a whole lot of negative press about some folks that clearly didn't listen to anything that he had to say about name, image, likeness.
Exactly. So Kirby is now, as far as we know, the highest paid on average per season, highest paid coach in college football, at least at a public university. So Lincoln Riley is the coach at USC. It's a private school, so there's no freedom of information requests. His salary is not public. But on average, Kirby is higher paid than Saban. I know Saban actually has some escalations written into his contract, but they won't kick in yet. So I think he has to fall out of the top 3 in the SEC and the top, it's 5 nationally. I forget what it is. But he has some automatic escalations by that. So as of now, Kirby's the highest paid coach. But yeah, then there was all the blowback. You had Shannon Sharp. I forget who else. There's an ESPN guy. It was interesting. Actually, our guy Chris Marler jumped in defending Kirby. Making fun of everyone for Kirby's had the same stance on NIL all summer, and essentially the same stance as Nick Saban. And then once Kirby gets his big payday, all these people jump in and start to claim he's a hypocrite and all this kind of stuff. But and took his media day comments about NIL way out of context and clearly did not hear him talk about the fact that Georgia had, 95 players with NIL deals, and talked about Jordan Davis being probably the highest paid guy last year, on the defense, etc. So whatever, as people just, that's the whole when I get frustrated with the national media, right? They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, clearly they don't have any idea what they're talking about. Good grief.
Yeah,
that was annoying. It's come on, guys, do a little legwork here. These capital J journalists out here.
Well, I don't know. I don't think we call Shannon Sharp a capital J journalist. But there were some.
There were some.
There absolutely were. There were, and I'm forgetting the guy's name. RJ something. His handle's RJ Wrights. I can't remember what his last name is. I'm blanking. He went off on it. It's whatever, dude. All right. You got any? I was gonna hit the listener questions unless you got anything else.
Let's hit the listener questions.
All right. So we already had the one from 5107 GATA earlier. We will go to Zach SC Dog 864. What is your favorite Kirby Smart quote so far in his tenure? There have been a lot. Can I make a clarifying statement or question?
Yeah. Yes.
Because I know you like those. Because I have some jotted down. One thing I will say is I think a lot of some of my favorite things that Kirby has said were either not mic'd up or they were things that were not said to the media. So there's that. So of things that were actually said to the media, I think I know mine. I was going to keep it to that. I'll mention my other ones. But HBTFD to me, it's kind of hard to top that. He actually said that in a post game when we beat Auburn.
Yeah, no, I think that was after the Florida game.
Was it? No, well, going to the the non-field FTMF as the hat that I'm wearing. That was the Florida game, but that was like running off the field, reading his lips.
Correct.
I thought that was after we beat Auburn.
What did I just mix it up? Like, what was the quote?
Yeah. Well, how about them dogs? That's what I told him.
Oh, yeah.
Because that one was like to a media
Sorry,
question.
Carter.
I'll move it up. That was an actual like to the media post game of Auburn. In what 19, I think.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so that's mine.
Yeah, my clarifying statement was going to be: is it something that that he said, but he didn't say it on a microphone?
Exactly. That's the FTMF.
Exactly. That was going to be mine.
Awesome.
I'm talking about. That's a good one. Another good one was the. I don't know. This is another one. Like, does it count as a quote because it was recorded? Was all I want to do is eat.
I had that written down too. Yes, I agree. That falls in the like.
I want you to eat.
I think that is my favorite. Like if we can include like things that aren't said to the media, that was incredible. Like when that leaked, and I think like the timing was a little off. Like when it leaked, I think we had kind of assumed it was related to, but it was like months old or something when it finally leaked. Well, shoot, if we're gonna throw that in, the Florida speech this year, the Florida halftime speech this year was pretty epic when he was like, I looked in those guys, eyes last year. He was talking about like looking into the guys last year in their eyes when they lost and they're going to be there. And he's just like, I want to bear him or whatever. I don't even remember what it was, but like it was amazing. The off camera ones are definitely win, but for the on camera, but the fact that he said HBTFD like in an official answer is pretty amazing. I did love, so in 17, like all the like his motivational things that they say to the team. I love all of them. Like, keep chopping was a good one. Keep the main thing. Like it didn't really even make any sense, but I loved it. And I yelled it like nonstop at the Rose Bowl. That's like what we were yelling the whole time. Like when we were behind, we were like, we're just not keeping the main thing. Like what is going on? So I don't know, whatever. And then you're either a leader or not. That was the one from this past year.
That's a good one.
Those are all my honorable mentions. But I got to go with
pressure is a privilege.
Pressure is a privilege. There's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. So he's got him. He's pretty quotable and gifable. Is Kirby.
There was another one that he'd said recently. It was like success comes for those that are too busy to find it, or something like that. That was the one that John was saying was like Socrates or something. I don't know what it is. That's what he's saying. I think he used that at Media Days last year, and he actually recounted back to that this year at one point. Got it.
Yeah, I like the canned ones that are like part of like the message to the team. Like I actually think those are usually pretty good. Burn the boats, right? That's another one.
Yeah, was it Minnesota that had burn the boats? Is there like
they're row the boat? They're row the boat.
Okay.
Row the boat. Yeah.
I could have sworn someone else had burn the boats as a theme, but yeah, he's definitely gifable. He's definitely quotable, and God love him.
Yeah, he's a good one.
He's quite the fiery chap, isn't he?
He is. All right, Zach.
Someone in my workout group that's like an East Carolina fan, and he's always like rolling his eyes whenever I talk about Georgia. He's always like, Kirby just needs a hug.
Look, man,
just give Kirby a hug.
you gotta love like the East Carolina fans. I got some friends who are App State fans. You gotta love them.
Yeah.
All right, Zach had a second question. Who are you looking forward to seeing on the field most this upcoming season? Not named Brock Bowers or Jalen Carter. Do you have anyone you're really looking forward to?
I do. I'm gonna hold my cards close to the vest. What's your answer first?
Okay. Hold on. I need to bring in a guest to say one of mine. I've got a couple, but one of mine is definitely
Reek Gilbert.
Nice.
Didn't get to see him last year. Absolutely went off in the spring game. So definitely excited to see Reek. And I will say something that I find interesting with him was it was such a big deal when he announced that he was going to come to Georgia, transferring from LSU, that he was going to play receiver, right? Like that was like it seemed to be one of the big selling points. He played tight end at LSU, and we were going to let him play receiver at Georgia. We're not talking about him as a wide receiver anymore, right? Like now we're talking about tight end. We're talking about run the damn 13 personnel, right? Like everyone wants to know when are we going to have Ariq and Darnell and Brock Bowers all on the field at the same time. So I find that interesting that doesn't seem to be like that moniker or whatever, right? Like that position label doesn't seem to bother him anymore. I'm kind of reading between the lines here. So that's kind of intriguing to me. But I mean, and also just like we saw what he did in the spring game. So he's definitely on my list.
Yeah. Think about how often we flexed Brock out. Like, was he a tight end or was he a slot receiver? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true. So yeah, I mean, I expect the same with Ariq. I mean, I had some other honorable mentions I could hit, but if you want to go to yours, or do you? Are you ready to go to yours?
I am. It's pretty straightforward, and it should surprise nobody to longtime listeners of My God, a Podcast. Never doubt Kieris.
Yes.
Never doubt Kieris.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see a fully healthy, and word on the street, according to our Dog Central folks, the Field Street Forum, they're saying that he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. He feels like he's not getting the respect from the media that he deserves, and I'm hoping that he has that hunger on the field because, let's be honest, like last year was a little bit of a letdown. Of course, I don't think that he was fully healthy.
Agreed.
Obviously, so I think that having a full off season, similar to how Monken got a full off season, I'm hoping that he's going to have a turnaround here coming off that injury. I'm excited to see Kieris. Honorable mention probably going to be Arian Smith and Don Blaylock. Like seeing those guys come back. We've got a long list of wide receivers that could potentially be poised for breakout seasons, depending on how things go. I'm hoping that we turn some heads at the wide receiver position because I think that there's a lot of talent sitting out there. And on the defensive side, like I said, I think that along the lines of that wide receiver, I had mentioned that A.D. Mitchell had that Devonta Smith kind of moment. That's another one that kind of sticks out. And then on the defense, Ringo, I think, had kind of the whatever you refer to as the defensive version of that.
Fair.
He had the defensive version of that, the walk-off interception. And I think Keely's going to be on that list. Nolan Smith's another one on that list as far as defense goes that I'm excited to see. A lot. Basically, we're talking about all these kids that we know about them. You've heard about them. They're not going to be any surprise to hear any of their names called on Saturday, and it's just a reflection of how deep we are. Right now.
Yeah. So you hit a lot of overlap on my honorable mentions. So I'll just add Jamon Dumas Johnson is a guy I'm excited to see in a bigger role. I think he flashed when he was in there last year. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins is a guy. Graham did a pretty extensive film breakdown on him with Josh as part of their, I think coming out of G-Day. So that's another one. And then lastly, I am really intrigued. Stetson Bennett has never entered a season at Georgia as the starter. He has every year he's been buried in the depth chart, right? So what can Stetson Bennett look like with a full offseason, knowing he's the guy, and with an offense tailored to fit his skill set? So I'm excited to see Stetson.
Who's there's another guy on the defensive side that has been getting a lot of noise as being like the next big thing. Michael Williams. What's the pronunciation there? Is it Michael or?
But see, this is why I can't wait for Scott, because there's so many guys that I look at it. Yeah, I mean, I honestly I don't know. Like, it could be Michael, it could be Michael. I'm not sure. That's why I love the pronunciation so much.
The Field Street guys and John are like screaming into their microphone. It's whatever the correct pronunciation is.
For sure. You know what? Okay, I'll give one more, and then we can move on. And let me. This one we can get a pronunciation for.
Dejan Edwards.
Oh yes.
So he's going to be the true third guy, I'm assuming, as of right now. Unless Branson Robinson steps up there, but and the third back gets a lot of play. I mean, that was Kenny McIntosh last year, right? And we're talking about him already. And we saw he was listed as third team All SEC entering this year. So I'm excited to see him in a bigger, expanded, frankly, more meaningful role this season. So,
yes, that would be. I've not shied from that here on this podcast, that I love the way that Dejan Edwards runs. So,
yep,
that would definitely be someone.
Yeah, I knew you would appreciate that one. So I was kind of holding on to that one. All right, we can move on. John Michael D. So this first question he has is related to the GIF or GIF, if you will, that was attached to our tweet from the podcast that solicited questions. So it's a newer one that we released on the heels of the SEC. What do you call them? It's like the 30 for 30. SEC story, out of the new SEC story, You're the Dog, that just came out, and so it's like Kirby walking in the facility, like on his phone, presumably texting. So he said, if Kirby was texting you, what would he be saying? And so mine is a callback to a story that I told, I think last year. Kirby would be texting me, why didn't you want to talk to me at the Bronco Nagurski Award? So that's what he would be texting.
So if that picture was, what would Kirby be texting you?
Yeah. So Kirby's texting, and he's texting you. What would he be texting you if he's texting you?
If he's texting me, I don't know.
And just for anyone who's new, the quick story is, I met both Kirby Smart and Mark Ricks at an event years ago, and I took up too much of Mark Rick's time, and there was this huge line behind me that had formed, and our Coach Rick graciously, abruptly ended our conversation by shaking my hand and saying it was nice to meet me. And I turned around, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. There's this huge line. And 15 minutes later, I found myself talking to Kirby when he was still at Alabama. And I was worried I was doing the same thing. And so I ended the conversation with Kirby because I thought I was hogging his time. And then when I left, no one else was waiting to talk to Kirby Smart. So
I'm the head out.
Whoops. Totally misjudged both conversations. So that's my bad.
You ghosted Kirby Smart and left him there by himself.
So that's why he wants to know. Kirby's texting me. He wants to know why I didn't want to talk to him.
So I have the answer to my text messages that I think that you'll appreciate. He's probably texting me, hey, do you remember that time we won a national championship? That was awesome.
Oh, so good. By the way, we have literally texted that to each other like randomly out of the blue.
Exactly.
Oh, that's good.
It's one of those texts that you just like randomly send to someone just because you know that it'll get a laugh out of them. Like, I've got friends like that I send that stuff to all the time.
That's good.
Funny moments in life where you have little quotes that are just going to get someone completely turn their day around.
That's good. You win. You won that question. Okay. All right. So John had a second question. Also, people are talking. So what do you think the odds are that the Dogs don't wear red shirts, red hats, and silver breeches against the Ducks? then he offered his answer. He says there's less than a 13% chance that happens. His 13% is in honor of Stetson Bennett. Then he also finished with hashtag uniform Twitter, hashtag inside sources.
Inside sources.
Okay, so I was trying to do some research tonight in preparation for answering this question.
On Georgia uniform Twitter?
Yes. So I put a question out there. So what I was trying to find out, so the next question is also uniform related. And I don't know if we want to pull that into. Well, let me go ahead and read the next one because I think they kind of go together. Fletcher Proctor said, "Are we more likely to see all white, including white helmets, or a black jersey versus Oregon?" So we can kind of answer that separately. But so with those two things going together, what I was trying to find out is who is the designated home team, because I feel like that makes a difference, right? Because I had heard rumors that Oregon was planning to wear all green in this game, like a all green. And I know like my clarifying question was like, are we talking like normal Oregon green? Are we talking like highlighter Oregon green? Because I've seen both Oregon and Baylor where this like bright neon, like looks like a highlighter kind of green.
Okay.
I didn't get an answer. I looked it up. I'll tell you this, looking at the seating chart, the Georgia sideline is the same sideline that the Falcons have at home games in Mercedes-Benz. And then also on GeorgiaDogs.com, they do actually list it as Oregon at Georgia for what that's worth.
I was just about to say it's Oregon at Georgia.
That's what it says on Georgia Dogs. So,
yeah.
So if we are choosing first, although this is so weird, right? So like if we were straight up choosing first, I would rule out the all white. Right.
For sure.
To Fletcher's question. So that's where I factor that in. But if we're not, I still don't think that would happen, by the way, but it would make it more of a possibility. So that's the one thing that I don't totally know, but I guess maybe we could kind of assume Georgia's the home team. But like if Georgia's the home team and then, Oregon says they're wearing all green and they're wearing like the kind of forest green type green, then like, can they be wearing that green and us wear black jerseys? Like you actually have to think about these kind of things. Like they can't be that similar. Like they have to be different. Like you can have two solid colors. Like one team doesn't have to be white. Like we've played Georgia, Florida, where Georgia's, red and Florida's blue. We did at the Peach Bowl, right? The last time we played in the Peach Bowl, we wore black jerseys and Cincinnati wore red. Like, so those things happen. So these are, I've got one more thing that I'll add, and that is in 2020, we were supposed to play Virginia in this same game in the Kickoff Classic, in the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic. And what we know now is that Georgia was going to do a surprise reveal of that 1980 throwback white jersey, red pants in that game. It was going to be just like the Auburn blackout. It was going to be warm up and normal, go in and then come out in the red pants and the alternate jerseys. So I wouldn't rule it out that we'll do so. We're playing
saving it up.
Well, I'm just saying it's like, a lot of things are lining up, right? You're playing Oregon, who is like the king of alternate uniforms, right?
Right.
And you're playing in this kickoff game that we know they convinced us. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but we know we were willing to do an alternate against Virginia in 2020. And frankly, we know that we did wear the black jerseys against Cincinnati in another Chick-fil-A game in the Peach Bowl. I think it's possible.
I believe that they're going to be wearing red.
You think so?
I think that so here's my thing. I feel like that if we come out with a uniform variant or whatever that we haven't seen before, even if it's the black jerseys,
yeah,
I feel like that's going to give them an edge in the psychology standpoint, because they're going to be like, man, these guys are copying us. I feel like that would be like a reverse. So I'm going to go reverse psychology and just come out with the most boring, uniform combination. And be like, man, these guys are for real. They don't give a shit about this stuff.
Okay, I had not thought about that angle. That's actually
They just don't give a dang.
That's amazing. Sorry, Carter. Okay. Oh man. Okay. I have one other thing that leans the other way, but that's a heck of an argument.
If I'm Oregon, I'm coming out there in all black neon green.
Oh, they're going to wear something crazy. Like, there's no doubt. They're yeah. Okay. So my one other thing in my extensive research, this is actually just when I was trying to figure out who was the home team. I found the tweet from the official Georgia football account's tweet when the time was announced. And I know you will remember this tweet because it was actually pretty cool. It was when they put like the duck hunt video where it was like Harry Dog was the dog in duck hunt. You like standing up and holding up the duck.
Yes.
Harry Dog was wearing a black jersey in that video. So
yeah, dude.
Could that be him?
If they came out in all black and greens, I mean.
No, but Harry Dog was wearing. Yeah. Like but Harry Dog was wearing the black. So like, could we see?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we come out in black, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the possibility. I don't know what the percentage chance is. I like 13%. I think that's a pretty good possibility set.
I like 13%. The other thing that would be interesting is what the weather is going to look like for that game, because I imagine that the roof is going to be closed. So if they did come out in all black, that's the roof of that stadium may get blown off.
I like it.
Like if Georgia comes out in the black jerseys, the roof of the stadium may just literally like erupt.
The center thing is just going to rotate and open because
exactly
of the exuberance. So would you agree then? I think we're agreeing that our answer to Fletcher's question of what's more likely, all white versus black jersey, that black jersey is more likely than all. There's no way we're wearing all white.
If you're giving me those two options, for sure,
yeah,
it's all black. But definitely expect boring.
Yeah, I love the argument that Oregon is just like aghast and blown away at the fact that we would dare wear a standard uniform.
Yeah, seriously,
I like it. I like that. All right, let's see. All right, speaking of pronunciation guides, and this isn't the first time we've gotten a question from this gentleman. So, Brian, let me know if I'm butchering your name because I'm not sure if it's Brian Michaelis. It could be Brian Michaelis. I'm not sure. I think I said Michaelis last time, so hopefully I'm getting that right. Apologies. Is cooking with bourbon a waste of bourbon? And then he adds, I personally say yes. Do you have feelings on this?
I do. I have some feelings. So if you're making desserts, it can add a different flavor profile to sweet like bourbon pecan pie, bourbon bourbon pecan vanilla ice cream, that kind of thing, like bourbon ice cream. I do think that it's good in those situations, but like a bourbon glaze turkey and chicken and stuff like that, like ham. I haven't been able to really taste the bourbon necessarily in some of those situations. Maybe I just haven't had a good version of it, but I mean, unless we're talking about cooking desserts, I think that there's a flavor profile. Like you go to I'm sure we've all had the bourbon chicken at like a mall, although maybe some of our younger listeners haven't. But
what's a mall?
Yeah, what's a mall? They're probably saying the same thing about T9 texting. Like, what the heck is T9 texting?
We made a super old person reference.
What are these old bastards talking about? Carter's like, what is T9 texting? I don't know that there's actually any bourbon in those bourbon chickens, but maybe there is. I would say that if we're cooking dessert, probably a waste, unless we're cooking dessert.
Yeah. I would agree. I've really got nothing to add to that. Agreed.
I mean, the other thing you got to factor is the fact that, when I'm grilling and cooking, I'm drinking bourbon all the time. So it's not a waste.
There you go. Yes.
It's not a waste.
So let me reread the question. Is cooking with bourbon a waste? I mean, if it's in your hand and you're drinking it.
Are you a lawyer, Mr. Brian?
Yeah. So is it in your hand, you're drinking it, or is it an ingredient? I believe he meant an ingredient, but fair.
I believe he meant an ingredient.
Fair. Good point. All right. Let's see. That brings us to our last set of listener questions. So it is now time for coaches over-unders from Coach Trillbill. First over-under from Coach Trillbill. Recruits committing before the Oregon game. Over-under set at 1.5. So we're recording on July 25th, so we've got over a month left. Actually, no, we're 40 days. So can we get more or less than 1.5 commits in the next 40 days? You want to go first? You want me to?
You go first.
I'm gonna go over because I feel like I think Jason or Dustin could correct me, but I feel like there's one that I think we're expecting to pop before the end of the month, and then that only leaves us one more for the entire month of August. So I'm gonna go with over.
I'm gonna go with over as well,
and I think lower end like maybe 2, but that gets us over. So I'll go.
I was just about to say if you put it at like 2.5.
Right. Yeah. True. I'd be more hesitant there. Okay. Over under times rewatching Year of the Dog, which that's the SEC story we mentioned earlier, before the Oregon game. Over under set at 20.5.
Let's see here. Probably, I'm going to go over.
Yeah, I mean, certainly for My God, a Podcast as a whole, definitely over. I know I've already watched it at least twice. I've probably watched it 2.5 times already. Which we didn't really talk about that, other than it happened. I thought it was funny because I think you watched it. You didn't watch it. You watched it like the day after. I think
I watched it a few days later, I think, or something like that.
I remember you started texting me, and I was like, "He's watching Year of the Dog now." Because you texted me with like zero context, zero lead in, like zero, hey, I'm about to watch this. And like your text was just like 1980, what?
That's one of those texts that you send to someone that you know is going to get it.
That's so good. So good. Which I got to go back and watch it.
1980 who?
1980 who? Was it Salyer? I think it was
Salyer, yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, that was epic. It's so if you have not seen Year of the Dog, big endorsement for My God, a Podcast. It was very well done. I loved all the flashbacks. There was stuff in there that I was not prepared to see in it. It was cool.
Yeah, it was still too soon. There was definitely some.
Yeah.
There's definitely some other things that I had not noticed. That were. I don't know. There's several things in there that I had not really noticed before. Like there's a painting on. I don't know where it was, but it had the WIN scrawled on the wall. I can't remember where it was going towards. If it was like in a workout facility or something, it was like "What's important now."
Yeah.
I think that's what it said. I may have butchered it, but it was WIN. I think it said "What's important now." I think is what it said.
I mean, that at least works as like alphabetically. As far as acronyms go, I'm going to trust you on.
Thanks, Jim. It's going to bother me because I used it. Whatever it was, I used it in a workout that I led like the next day or something like that. As part of my parting words for the guys. But I thought that was pretty cool. I had not heard that really. If I had it definitely wasn't like a big part of it. Certainly not big enough to where it was painted on the wall. You know what I mean? Like that stood out to me. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, you're either a leader or you're not, or burn the boats or whatever. Like those are things that were talked about a great deal, but that one stuck out to me. So there's like little things like here and there that I thought that was interesting, and I can't think of any other ones, but that was one that came top of mind.
Yeah, I really enjoyed some of like the flashbacks, like things that happened even in 2020. Those are the things that like when I said I wasn't prepared to see flashing back that far. Like it wasn't just about the 2021 season. They had some things in there around a few players, like on their journey, right? That like 2020 and what happened to them in 2020 was a big part of their journey to get to 2021. And I thought that was very well done. They spliced some of that stuff in very well. And like, things like I hadn't thought of, or not that I hadn't thought of them, but I didn't wouldn't have thought to include it. I'll say that. And like I was expecting it to basically be like, here's how the season went, right? And then like the flashback to 2020. I thought that was pretty cool. That was very well done.
Yeah, there was. I wasn't prepared for what felt like if you're watching that show, and if you're like me, you're probably watching it and like, man, where's Stetson in this? Like, you didn't realize like how long it took for him to kind of take the reins. You know what I mean?
That's a really good point. Yeah, I had forgotten about even that. I thought that. Yeah, it's like, man, there's a lot of JT Daniels in this thing, right?
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. Like JT got up. That was another thing that they had mentioned that I hadn't heard much about was like JT got an NIL deal and said that he was going to share it with the team. Yeah, that was all like preseason. I'm curious, like, you know, how did that pan out since he didn't get the start?
Right.
But you know, it was one of those things. I was like, man, he seems like a really genuine dude. He seemed like he was a really genuine dude in all the clips and everything like that. Like, it's really stinks that it didn't like pan out for him. But at the same time, I think that Stetson's story is probably a little better. But I remember watching it. I was like, golly, we went deep into the season before we even got to JT. And don't tell the Alabama guys, but like, you know, our quarterback didn't start until halfway through the season.
Right, seriously, for real. I was not prepared to see Jamie Newman in a Georgia uniform in the documentary, and it's like 2020 fall practice, and they showed Jamie Newman, and I was like, man, that looked like a pretty good pass. It's like I've never seen footage of him. He looked pretty good. It's pretty funny.
Yeah,
I was not prepared. I was not prepared to see. That's the kind of thing that was like I would not have thought to include Jamie Newman. That's where I just thought it was so well done.
It was really well done. And that guy, isn't that the same guy that does like the NFL films?
The voice, I think. Yeah, the voiceover guy. I think he does. I think so.
Not like the old school NFL films, but
like the
more recent ones.
Yeah, I think so.
Another like nice little like segment that I thought was super interesting, and I think that the guys on the text thread were talking about it as well, was that Stetson in the Orange Bowl literally had to come up to Jermaine Burton and tell him what route to run. Dude, I'm just going to put it up there where he isn't. Just go.
So that was that was some stuff. That was one of the things I know. A couple people pointed out, like there sure was a lot of Jermaine Burton in this thing. But yeah, we saw that too. All right,
go watch it.
Yeah, I definitely watch it. Yeah, highly recommend. Very well put together. Very high quality. All right, over under new bourbons tried before Oregon game on average per person at 1.5. How many people are we averaging? Are we averaging me and you, Coach Drillbill, me, you, Coach Drillbill, all of Dog Nation, all of Bulldog Bourbon Social Club? These are clarifying questions I had. Sorry, I've turned into you with the clarifying questions.
Yeah, seriously. Like if we're talking about throwing Bobby into this equation, like holy cow.
Slam the over.
Slam the over. I'm already. I already have a new one. If I wasn't under the weather, I'd probably be drinking it right now. So I've already got one. So I'm pretty close to the over. So I would say probably on the over on that one.
Okay, it's tough for me because I don't. It's tough slim pickings for me at my ABC store to find new stuff. I had a bunch of new stuff that my dad introduced me to over the summer. I have a new bottle that I'm not going to reveal what it is because I bought it for a game this season, and I will reveal what that bottle is when the time is right on that on that game preview episode. I plan to have it that night.
It's the Kentucky game, isn't it?
Well, yeah, no one's ever had a Kentucky bourbon before, so obviously
no one's ever had a Kentucky bourbon before.
So I don't know. So for me personally, I think 1.5 is a pretty good number. I look at that I might hit the under myself. I think we'll go. I would say for me personally, it probably will be under by then, unless I come across something.
Technically, a new bottle of 46 is a new bourbon too.
Yeah, we're hitting even more clarifying. Which my Maker's 46 is getting a little low. So
There you go.
I've got several that are low, which is exciting to me because I get that I'm about to add, because I follow your rule of only add the infinity bottle when you're at the bottom of a bottle.
Yes.
I'm going to get a lot of stuff added to my elite bottle pretty soon. I'm pretty excited about that.
I don't know if I showed you mine or not. I think
I saw it on Twitter. I saw it on Twitter. You tweeted
yes.
it. I think
I tweeted it. Yes, yeah. I cleaned up my bottle and added the sticker. So
it was a redemption bottle, right?
It was a redemption bottle because my infinity bottle was a redemption that I made during the 2021 season. So it was a redemption season.
That's right. Okay. Let's see. Last over under tailgate food trial runs before the Oregon game. Over under at 2.5.
Listen, Coach, I'm already on my midseason form on this, so I will probably not have any trial runs.
That's an elite flex answer, and I'm going to say the same thing. Look, I'm locked in. I know what I'm going to have for my tailgate, so I don't need to do that.
Exactly. Look,
I've had the recipe to Panda's bean dip for like 20 years. So
nice.
I'm ready to go.
We know what the ingredients are.
That's right. Awesome. All right.
The only thing I might change is I might try to smoke it. Like that might be a trial run. So I'll go with under on that one.
With the bean dip? You're gonna
on mine. Not your bean dip. I'm talking about my dip.
Now I'm just sitting here though. What if I made Panda's bean dip and then I put it in a smoker and I let it melt the cheese and get a little smoke on it? Now I'm getting intrigued by this idea. I've never thought of that. Might have to try that.
See the things you might try. So
it's still the under though, because that's the only one.
Still the under. Yeah, still the under for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, that wraps the listener questions. I don't know. We'll have to figure out. So I don't think we know exactly our schedule. So we know we've got a couple of things we're trying to work out to come up. But I mean, the season is rapidly approaching. So we've definitely got, we'll have we'll do like a big, I say big, whatever. We'll kind of like preview the season at a macro level like we always do, ahead of the Oregon game. But I mean, 40 days. I mean, your summer is already over. I've still got a little bit of summer left with our kids, but you guys are heading back to school.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's nuts, man, how fast we've gone from, I mean, it feels like yesterday I was in Indianapolis, and you and Carter were shooting off fireworks.
It really is. Like, yeah, every time those mortars, like we've got some teenagers behind us that randomly will be shooting off mortars. I'm like, oh yeah, remember that time we won the national championship and I did that?
I mean, like, full disclosure, like I wouldn't have set off, you know how I am. I wouldn't have set him off until the game was totally over, but fair. Like, I feel like,
tough, but fair.
Hold on. I want to make sure I get this right. You wouldn't set them off. Keeley had intercepted the pass, but had not yet. Like, you didn't even know that he scored, right? You just ran outside and set off fireworks. Am I getting that right? Am I making that up?
No, we knew that he scored.
Okay.
And what we didn't know was that there was still game time left when we came in.
He came back and the game wasn't over yet. That's it.
Yeah, the game wasn't even over yet, but it was over. It was over in the Powell household.
Oh, so good. Okay, that reminds me of one last Kirby thing that did happen. He in that same thing that we played a clip from earlier with Tebow. It was Tebow and others. He did get a question around the interception, and they said, were you telling Keeley to go down? And he was like, yeah, I was telling him to get down. It's amazing. It's just fun. But he tried to claim, he was like, but the reason was because he was being trailed by a receiver, and what a receiver is supposed to do? Strip the ball. He's like, so I thought I was going to get stripped. He's like, I didn't want him to get stripped. He's like, okay, Kirby.
Did he change his tune? Because I feel like that there was another interview where he mentioned that he was trying to tell Keeley to get down, but then afterwards he realized that him scoring was actually a good thing for them.
Agreed. I am on board with you. I feel like he's changed his story.
He's changed his story. Yeah.
Agreed. Come on, Kirby.
I like the story. I like the story where Kirby admits that he's a little bit wrong.
Yes.
He's not stitious, but he's a little stitious.
Exactly. Awesome. Let me plug a couple of things. Obviously, we mentioned Dog Central, so make sure to go check that out. We're proud to be a part of that. We're having a lot of fun over there. And also, I don't know, John, if you've noticed, I'm wearing my new goat T-shirt. Available now at store.mygodapodcast.com. So everybody can go check that out if you are interested.
I was just about to say, where can I get one of those?
Yeah. Other things are in the works that I was going to make some custom for you. So, but yeah. I totally went off the rails. We'll figure out. We generally let the folks know when we're recording a new episode. So I don't know that we're definitely back to weekly yet. But we are certainly close, and the season is right around the corner.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.